We call this move the Bueller through a naming contest we had on my old Yahoo groups back in 99 or 2000. So we've been doing this one for a while. Something I sort of came up with. I'm sure I was inspired by something else because there's nothing original. But I didn't have a name for it, so I reached out to my online community at the time, 20 years ago, and said, what should we call it? And the second runner-up, or the first runner-up, was Sexy Bartender, but it became known as the Bueller for reasons I won't go into and aren't very exciting. Anyway, call it what you want, but this is what the first version of the Bueller looks like, the main, if you want to, traditional Bueller. It's literally a deadlift with a twist, you'll see. And then we have two other variations to show you, and I'm sure you can come up with plenty on your own. You don't need a lot of weight for this. I threw a 10-pound plate on here, and for now that's going to be groovy. I don't recommend going particularly heavy on it because what happens is you start heaving and hoisting rather than using the muscles that are supposed to work. We're not trying to swing the bar. We're trying to drive from the hips. The spine actually doesn't twist. So even though I call this deadlift with a twist, all the turn happens at the hips. You're not trying to twist the spine on this one. Locking everything into place like a good deadlift, keeping your shoulders down. We call it squishing the trolls. You have these trolls that live in your armpit. You're squishing them by packing your shoulders down. And you're trying to keep that position. Even if your arms are up, the shoulders are still down. So we're going to pack the shoulders through this entire movement. So I'm going to treat it like a deadlift, except it's a little low. So I'm going to bring it up off the ground. Hands on the inside though, so for those of you who are anti-sumo deadlift, too bad, that's what's going to happen right now. I'm going to get my hands as close to the weight as I can, and I want that directly in the middle. So my hands are going to go between my legs, and I'm going to grab right below the weight and lift it just to my knee height. That's the starting position, right below my knees. And then in one move, I'm going to both deadlift and step. Boom. Until I'm in this proud position here. My shoulders are still packed down. I'm facing the wall now, which means I turned at a 90-degree angle, all from the hips. I didn't twist the spine at any point. Shoulders are still packed, belly and booty on. This is the tricky part, controlling it down. I step back to where I started and slowly come back down. So it ends up in that same space. Now this is important, because if this foot moves a lot, other than just pivots, if it starts to move, I'm going to come back somewhere different. So this foot pivots, but this foot does the actual stepping. If I had like Arthur Murray dance steps on the ground, this one would simply be a turned step. This one would have 2 feet placements, one here, one here. So it looks like this. I'll do a few in a row. Pack the shoulders, hinge at the hips, bend at the knees, just like a good deadlift. Bring it up to my knees, drive off this leg until I've turned 90 degrees. Gently step back, control it down, go again, boom. Step back, control down, drive off that leg. Step back, control down, I'm gonna keep saying that. Drive off that leg. Step back, control down, drive off that leg. Every time I come down, I'm coming down with that good technique. Hinge, knee bend, proud. It's really easy to let this round your back, to have it pull you out of that good deadlift shape. So try to avoid that. That's why I say control on the way down. If I'm here, I'm going to step back, but keep everything proud. Shoulders are still packed, shoulders are still packed. Booty goes out, knees bend. It's the proper way to absorb the lowering of that weight. That's the first version of the Bueller. Let's play with some varieties. This is called a lunging Bueller, and you will see why. I'm going to grab it at the end and push it up. So it's just a little bit above my head. So my arms aren't straight out in front of me. They're going to go up a little above eye level. And that's where I'm going to hold the end of the bar. I'm going to put my feet kind of wide because, as indicated in the name, I'm going into a lunge. And you don't want to do a narrow foot lunge. That doesn't work very well. So we're going to go kind of wide because when I turn, I come down into a lunge. And then up and over to the other side. One smooth motion. Bringing that back knee almost to the ground. Maybe even gently touching the ground with the back knee. The rest of me is staying very upright. So the back knee is taking a lot of the load. And my arms, and this is the tricky part, stay straight. In fact, I should mention that for all the Buelers. Arms stay straight. It's really tempting to bend the arms to try to have more control and let the arms do some of the work. But all the work is coming from your hips. So we're going to keep the arms straight through the entire movement. Gently lowered, back down. The lunging Bueler. But wait, there's more. You'll notice I swapped out the little metal 10 for a bumper 10. It's still the same weight, it's just a wider plate. And you'll see why. Now you don't need to. If you don't have bumper plates and you still just have the metal ones, groovy. You can still use it. This just is a little easier, a little more controllable, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We call this a driving Bueler. It actually has a steering component to it. This is how it works. I'm going to get in my deadlift stance again, but instead of grabbing the bar, I'm going to grab the plate that's on the bar, one hand on the far side, one hand on the inside. I'm going to step again, but this time I'm going to step and end up completely on the other side. So one hand over, one hand closer, and as I come up, I'm going to step with this outside foot, currently my left foot, to go where my right foot is, and then back. Boom. So I step with my right foot to where my left foot is, and back. Switch the feet, back. Arms stay straight. Switch the feet, back. I'm hinging well and keeping my shape every single time. No rounded backs. So my shoulders stay packed. Switch the feet and back. Switch the feet and back. Now, if you feel you can control this, add a little speed on the way up. Maybe not all the way through, because you can round really easily on the way down. But on the way up, go a little quicker. So from the start, I straddle the weight. Hinge at the hips, bend the knees, keep that posture, and I'm going to go for a little bit of speed this time. On the way up. So I'm going to try to explode and then control. Explode and then control. It's very important that I switch the feet properly. Explode, then control. Explode, then control. What's happening with my feet is as I turn, one's just taking the place of the other. I'm not stepping out or I'm not stepping inside, because then you'd lose your placement of where you are. So I'm simply taking one foot, putting it where the other one is. Like there's two dots on the ground, and you're just trying to step from one dot to the other dot. One more time. This one, by the way, is one of my favorites. Kind of fun. Lock in, everything's solid. Come up, switch feet, down. Come up, switch feet, down. That's the driving Bueler. Have some fun with it. Key thing to remember on all three variations: arms stay straight, feet have a distinct place they have to go for each one of these, and the shape of the spine needs to be solid. You lose it in any way, whether it's rounding it or twisting it, you're inviting potential danger that you don't want. So this stays solid. The movement all happens from the hips themselves. It can be kind of explosive, but always try to control on the way down. That's your Bueler. Those are some Bueler variations. I'm sure you can come up with your own. They're now yours. So have some fun with it.